Let's understand HTML list. What is a list? List is basically a set of items. So you can see on the left side, I have a list of roles. So a list is a set of items printed one below the other. And list can be ordered or unordered. On the left side, you can see there is a ordered list. So it says 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a ordered. And unordered is, it is not saying any numbers or alphabets. It is just showing a bulleted one. So this is unordered list. So to represent an item, we use li tag. So you can see developer is an item. So for that, we need to use li. Ordered list can be specified using OL tag. So whenever you want to use ordered list with the numbers or alphabets, you need to use OL tag. Whereas unordered list can be specified by using UL tag. You can see on the left side, we can use UL as a tag to represent unordered list. So let's see one example on how to create a list of ordered and unordered list. So here on the project, I'll create a folder, or I can create a page, list examples.html, HTML5. So here I'll say list examples. So first I'll use one h1, list examples. Now inside this, first I want to create ordered list. To create ordered list, we need to use OL as a tag. So inside OL, how many list items I want to create? So li, let's say one, you no need to mention like this. Let's see what happens, right? Developer, right click and live preview. So you can see automatically when you are using OL as a tag, it is giving 1. So if I'm representing li one more item, I'll say tester. So on the right side, you can see it's automatically giving number 2. So whenever we want to represent ordered list, you can use this. Let's say I want to have 6 more elements. So simply type li star 6. So this is the shortcut to generate more list items. You can see it is giving the numbers. So now I can write product owner, etc. Okay, I'll just say product manager, UAT manager, release manager, sales manager, etc. Lead architect. All right, so this is how we represent. And now if I don't want to use numbers, I want to use alphabets, I need to use alphabets instead of numbers. Simply type type, type as the attribute, and you can see it is giving some suggestions like numbers or alphabets. I want to use alphabets, I can use capital A. If you want to use small letters, you can use small alphabets A. So this is how we use ordered list. And now let's use unordered list by using UL tag. So first I'll give some h2, unordered list example. So for unordered list, I'll use the same thing like list of companies, right? For that we need to use UL as a tag. Again, if I have 5 companies, I can use li star 5. Now in this I can write Google, Facebook, Twitter, Visa, Bank of America, something like this. Now you can see by default, whenever you are using unordered list, UL and list element, we are seeing bullets. So now here we can change the style of this unordered list. If I don't want to display any items or a like bulleted list, if I want to keep it simple plain, I can simply use none. So the style will be removed before the item. And also there are some other examples that we can use. Let's see here. Here I'll create a style element. So inside style element, maybe I want to use some check mark. So let's see one example here. List of holidays. So when I type list of holidays, you can see here by default it shows bulleted list, but some websites they might be showing another list, right? Let's see. Okay, so here we see again bullets. You can see here it's a numbers. All right, you can see here this example, it is showing a check mark or a tick mark, right? So how do we represent that? Let's see. So on an unordered list, if I'm using some style and I'm using list type, I'm not seeing any kind of option, right? Like a tick mark or check mark. So what I'll do now, I can use some entities. So entities are some special characters that you can use. So here I'll simply type UL, and inside this I want to use the character. So I'll say list style type. So what is the style type? I need to type a special character here, backslash 2713. 2713. You can see now it shows the check mark on the left side. Likewise, let me comment this. If I want to use some other characters like a thumbs up symbol, right? So let's see how to use that. List style type, double quotes, backslash 1F44 capital D. So you can see now the list type is now showing as thumbs up, right? So how do I find more entities and more characters? We will see now. So as we discuss entities and symbols, there are some special characters which we can use in a HTML. So you can see here there is a character like infinity symbol. If I want to use infinity in a HTML, you can use entity name. This is the entity name. So let's see one example here. I'm using a paragraph. Data is infinite, which is ampersand infinite. So you can see I'm using an entity name. So this is the entity name, or you can use the character, the decimal number 8734 by using ampersand and hash. Let's see that. I'll copy this. So this I'll write some comment here. This is entity name, and now let's use decimal code. The data is infinite. So what I'll do, ampersand hash 8734 symbols. Okay, so now when I write this hexadecimal code, you can see the character is still displayed. So here I'll say this is by hexadecimal code. So likewise, we can also use this special character, and there are a lot of entities we can see from this website, Unicode table. So when I click on this, you can see there are Unicode, emojis, sets, etc. If you scroll down, there are a lot of special characters or symbols, and each special character, it has its own CSS style which you can use, and there are hexadecimal codes as well, decimal codes. Okay, so let's see one example on emoji as well. If I want to display some emojis like smiley, so I'll click on this, and now it gives the hexa code, HTML code. I'll just copy this one and come back to our HTML. So I'll write some paragraph. I like summer and paste the code. So you can see when I place this decimal code, it is giving the smiley symbol. So whenever you want to use some special characters and smileys, emojis, you can use these entities. About forms. Forms are very important, and forms are used to send the data to the server. We have seen lot of examples in real time. When you're trying to register for Amazon account, when you're trying to register for Facebook, you enter your email address, first name and your phone number, so that you can register your profile. So to create a form, we use a form tag, and inside form we need to have some input elements like text box, radio button, checkboxes, like that. You have seen so many examples that when you select radio button, it is only one option you can select, whereas checkbox you can select multiple options. So type attribute will specify the type of input. So let's see one example how to create a form. So for that, what I'll do, I'll create a folder here called forms examples or forms.html. So inside forms folder, I'll create a registration page, register.html. So now let's create a simple page. So here I'll try to create a register page, register as a title, and then I'll say h1, create your account, save, and let's see the preview. Okay, we are getting the account. So now what I'll do, I'll create a form element. I want to create a form, so I'll use form form. So by default, form gives an attribute called action attribute. We'll see what type of attributes we can use inside a form element. For now, let's keep it empty. So first, now let us understand some elements inside form. So the first element is label. So what is label? It gives the information about the text field. For example, if I type input, whether we don't know whether it is for first name or to enter an email address, right? So what I do, before the input field, I create a label. So what is a label name? I'll say first name. Now you can see this is a label which says on the left side, and we have the input type as text. Whenever you use a label element, it is giving an attribute called fur. We will see shortly what is the purpose of that. So now this input field, you can enter some text. All right. So next we'll create another label for last name or your surname, last name. So here, if you notice, this label and input are inline. You can see it is coming in a single line. But if I want to represent these elements in the next line, I'll just use br tag so that the label comes in the next line. Then again, I'll use input type equal to text. So you can see I have given first name, last name. We have given first name and last name, but if you see, notice on line number 13, it is saying text, and again here it says text. So let's do one thing. Let's create another element called input type is equal to submit. If you notice, again it is coming in the same line. I'll use a br tag. All right, now we have the first name, last name. Let's type something, Tom Wilson, submit. Okay, so when you click on submit, it is not carrying here, right? So whenever you see a question mark, that means it should carry the data to the another page. But why it is not carrying? Let's see one example, real-time example here. I'll go to some account like a Gmail account, or you can take, okay, here I'll type something, list of holidays. You can see whenever there is a form here like search is a field, I type something like list of holidays and press enter. You can see Q is equal to list of holidays. Or I'll show one more example. Just type holidays, okay, and press enter. You can see Q is equal to holidays. That means the data is submitted to the next page, right, to the server, and it is showing some details. But in our example, the data is not moving forward. Why? Because there are two elements which says same type. Line number 13, input type equal to text. Line number 15, type equal to text. How does server know the values? For that, we need to give another attribute called name. So I'll say this as f name, and for the second element, I'll say name equal to L name, last name. Now save this, type something here. Okay, I'll type Tom Wilson, click on submit. Now you can see the data is coming, F name and last name. The data should go to the server. So whenever you have some input fields like this, you should always have a name attribute and the value. In the past, we have seen attribute should have key value. So this is the key and this is the value. So right now we have seen input and the label. Right now let's see another thing called br label password, and use one more input field for the password. So if you want to write some styles, we have separate session, but I'll use simple styles here, style, and I use for every input I need margin as 5 pixel so that you get some gap, and every input field I need width as 200 pixel, like this. Now when I'm applying some simple styles here for an input element, I have just given margin to keep the gap between these two elements, and the width is total 200 pixel. But you can see it is not consistent, right? Because the first name label is maybe some label has, first name label has more characters, password has less characters. So what I'll do, I want to apply the width to the label. So let's see label. I'll say width equal to 200 pixel. When I save this, it is not applying. This is one of the interview question people might ask, right? Why the width is not applied to this? So it's a simple answer. Label is a inline element. Label is a inline element. So I'll see here, this is an inline element. So when there is an inline element, it is not applying the styles, right? Inline element, we cannot apply the width. So what I need to do, I need to convert this label input inline element to a block element. So what I'll do, I'll say label as inline, display inline block. So now you can see, maybe I'll give less here, 50 pixel, or not 550 pixel, maybe 100 pixel. So now they are consistent. So let's copy this URL and go to the browser and paste it. Right click and inspect. when I select the element label, it is coming as 100% width, and every element. So let's apply some more styles here, like a border, just to see the difference. Border 2 pixel or 1 pixel, solid gray. Okay, refresh. You can see there is a border applied. So that means the width is now getting applied. So I'll just take this out. Alright, so now the data, the columns are matching perfectly. Next, so if you see here, first name I'll type Srinivas and just say Tom, we'll see, and password. But if you see, wherever you enter password, it is hidden, right? If you go to some websites like amazon.com and you try to create an account, start here. When you type passwords, they are hidden. Why? Because they use a different value for the type. So instead of type text, we need to use password. Let's see now. Right. So this is very important. When you are using a password fields, always you need to represent the type as password. Then name equal to pwd. I'll use one more break element. Label, confirm password, and use one more input type. Again you need to say password, so that both the fields will have same thing. I'll give 120 as the width. Okay, so type this. All right, we are not doing any validations right now. We are just using HTML form elements. Okay, now we got the difference between type equal to text and type equal password. And now we will see email address br, label as email, input type equal to email. Or let's see what happens if I use text. And here we forgot to write name, cpwd, confirm password. Name should be unique always. You cannot use the same names for other elements. Okay, so right now email is there, input type equal to text. Let's type something here. Okay, all right, let me, all right. Okay, so you see right now whenever I enter an email, it is not doing anything, right? Because email should always have @ symbol. So what HTML has a design, right? You can use email as the attribute, key value, name equal to email. Now see what happens if I type something and come back or submit. It says please include @ in the email address, because email input type is email type. So always use, whenever you are using email fields, you should keep the type as email address. So far we have seen some examples on the input type. So let's see one more example, like the radio buttons. So you are registering for an company, or you are applying for a company, right? So you are selecting some options like male or female. So let's see how to create that. Okay, so to create what I'll see, I'll write some comment here, radio button example. So this is so far. Let me right click and format the document so it looks neatly. All right, so to create a radio button, so let's see, I'll use input type equal to radio. So whenever I use input type equal to radio, you can see there is a circle coming in, right? So but how do I design that checkbox? We will see. First you need to have input. I want to use male and female, right? So I'll say input type equal to radio. I need two checkboxes, one for male and one for female. I'll use like this. You can see two are coming here now. So for each input, I don't know, customer doesn't know, user doesn't know whether this is male or this is female. Okay, so what I need to do, I'll write a label here. Label, this is for male. I'll use BR. Label, after this label, this is for female. This is for female. Okay, so what I did now so far, I created a label input field so that I can see a check radio button here, and then I given some label so that customer knows why I have given this. Likewise, same thing, I have given one more radio button. And now what happens, a radio button you can only select one option, but how come it is selecting both? Because when you are designing a field like a radio button, you need to give a name for the input type. So here I'll say input name equal to gender. Name equal to gender. I'll copy this. I'll paste it here. Okay, now in the input type, I have given the same name so that you can only select one option. So now when I submit, let's see, Tom Wilson, password 123 abc@gmail.com, and I have selected mail. Click on submit. Now you can see on the form it submits first name as Tom, last name as Wilson, password, confirm password, email, and gender equal to on. But why it is saying gender equal to on? Because every input type like the radio button should have some value. When you're submitting to the server, it should have the value. So this is a male type, male value. When user is selecting this checkbox, or sorry, this radio button, it should have the value as male. And when user selects this, it should have the value as female. Now let's see live preview so that it goes the previous data. Tom Wilson, password 123, password 123 abc@gmail.com. Now select mail, submit. Let's see here. Yes, now you can see gender is equal to male is displaying. All right, now we have seen radio button. Next, after this one, I'll create a break element. Okay, so now we will see one example called checkboxes. So checkbox, basically you can see this example when you want to select multiple options, right? Are you interested in full-time, or are you interested in contract? You can select all these options. Okay, let's see here. So you are trying to register for a company, and you are trying to apply something, right, like a role. Okay, so checkboxes, like similarly how we have designed this one, we'll see the same thing. Input type equal to checkbox. Now here we need to give this as a checkbox. How many checkboxes we need? Maybe I'll give 4 examples. Copy this, paste, and then use BR. Okay, now I have 4 checkboxes. Okay, and for each checkbox I want to give a name label, that is where do you like to work, right? I'll give some heading here first. H2, where do you like to work? So I'll give the list of city names: Chennai, label, Hyderabad, label, Pune, label, Delhi. So sorry, this fur is here. Okay, so let's create break for each element. So after Chennai, I give the break. Here I give the break. All right, so now you got some options, so you can select multiple options like this, but when you submit, the data will not be submitted, so we need to have the values and the name. So value is HYD. So when you select this checkbox, the value should be submitted as HYD. And what is the name of this group? This is location. So every element related to this we should have this name, same name. Input type equal to checkbox, checkbox, checkbox. All right, so that means when you select out of these all checkboxes and when you submit, it will give the location as the name and the values what you select. So let's give some values here. So value equal to, if you see something I have mentioned wrong here, because when you select this field, when customer is selecting this, that means it's a Chennai value. So I should say CHN, and value here is HYD, and the value here is a Pune, PUN, and the value here is Delhi. Okay, save this. Now let's see what happens if I submit here. Tom Wilson 123 abc@gmail.com. Select. Maybe I'll not select the last one. Submit. So you can see what is happening. The locations are submitted as location as Chennai, location as Hyderabad, location as Pune. Okay. All right. So this is more about a checkbox. And likewise, you can also create a radio button. So in which city you are going to live. So you can select one option there. Let's see that example. Drop down. So what is a drop down? You can see you can choose from the list of options. Okay, so to represent the drop down, so we use input. Actually here we use a different element called select element, and inside select I need to use something called as options. So let's say option *5. How many drop downs you want? I will need 5 options. Okay, so let's see that option as, so right now you have given in which role, let's see in which role you are interested, right? So I am interested as a manager or developer or tester, lead developer, or an architect. Okay, so what happens, let's see. You can see there is a drop down displaying. When you select it, it should submit. So for that you have already one option, that is role. You are giving this entire thing as role. so that when you select something and submit, it should have that attribute or the property. Okay, so value is manager, developer. So when you select tester, the value should be tester, lead, architect. Save this. Let's see the example now. Okay, Tom Wilson 123 abc@gmail.com. Generally we don't use get call here. What is get call? I'll explain. Mail Chennai, I'm using as a architect, submit. So let's see if the value is submitted or not. Okay, role is equal to architect. So this is how we generally use these input fields in a form. So we have seen some examples now, like text, password, radio button, checkbox, and drop down. And let's see form attributes. So we have some form attributes like action, target, method, auto, and no validate. These are very important, so let's see those. Now in the beginning, as I mentioned, when you create a form, you will get an option called an attribute called action. So what is this action means? When you submit, where should I go? When you submit, where should I go, right? So I want to go to a different page. So let's see, inside forms, I'll create a page called home.html. So let me say HTML5. This is home page h1. The form data is submitted successfully. Okay, I'm just giving some heading here. Let's see this page. Okay, there is some the form, there is a typo here. All right, so what I wanted to do, when customer clicks on this form submit, right click. When customer clicks on this submit button, I need to take the user to the next page. So that is where this action is configured. So where I want to go, I want to go to home.html. So let's see now. I type Tom Wilson, password 123, confirm password, abc@gmail.com. Then I choose mail, Chennai, architect, submit. You see the data is getting to the next page. But how do we display that data? We will see that in a JavaScript concept. Okay, but we are not submitting this data to any servers. This is purely front end. Okay, now we have seen one attribute called form action. Let's see another attribute called no validate. The no validate attribute, basically no validate attribute skips the validation, which means right now we have given email as the value for the input type. So which means if I type something like ABC and try to submit, there is a validation. So if you want to skip these kind of validations, you can use no validate as the attribute. So save this, and now if I type something and click on submit, it is getting submitted because we are skipping the validations. Let's understand the method, another attribute called autocomplete. To understand autocomplete, let me copy this URL and open in a browser. Right now, if I type something like Tom and I'll type Wilson, something like that, and click on submit, it is getting submitted. When I come back, now if I remove this, and I click on this, it is showing me some previously submitted data so that I can choose this. If I want to avoid this kind of situation, if I want to avoid this autocomplete which is previously entered, you can use this attribute. For example, if I copy same thing and open in a private window, in a private window, it is still showing, right? But still I want to hide this previously submitted data. So let's see here. Simply type autocomplete as off. So when you keep it autocomplete as off, let's see what happens. So if I refresh and when I click on this, the form data which is previously submitted, it is not giving any suggestions. So it is recommended that whenever we use any forms, please make sure you have autocomplete off for any privacy or registration forms. Let's understand the other attribute, method. So method is attribute which requires key value. So here you are using get and post. So by default, when you are not mentioning anything, a form will considered as get method, which means if I right click and open the page, let me fill the form Tom Wilson 123 abc@gmail.com, mail Chennai, submit. A get form, a get method, generally a method will submit the parameters. So these are called query parameters. So when the data is submitted in the form of parameters, that is generally a get method. If I make it as post, let's see what happens. Method equal to post. Right click, live preview. So I'll fill the same details, or I'll copy this and open in a browser and right click and inspect to understand the post call. So go to network tab, click on all and click submit, or select preserve log and click submit. So you can see now the data is went to the next page in the form of post. You see the method submitted is post. But where is the value? The values we are not able to see here, but you can see in the payload. In the headers we don't see, we see in the payload whatever the form values we are submitting. This is because we want to maintain the privacy in the URL. Then we use get method and post methods. Okay, so generally get methods, you can submit the data within the query param, and post you will be submitting in the form of body. So when we understand JavaScript more, we will see that real example. Next attribute is target. So to understand target, let's see one example again. Tom Wilson, or you can go back to this example. When I click on submit, the page is opening in the same page. The page is opening in the same page. But if I want to open in a new tab or in a new window, then I will use target attribute. So let's see that. In the form, I'll say target equal to blank. So save this, go back to the page, forms register.html, click on submit. You can see now this is opening in a new tab, This is opening in a new tab. All right, so these are some values or attributes for the form. So now let's understand form input types. So we have seen some input type like text, type is equal to text, type is equal to password, but there are some other attributes or the type key values basically. Let's see them. So for that I will use a new page. Inside forms, create a new page called input types.html. So these input types, HTML form input types. So input types will change the behavior of the input. So if I use type, we have seen the example that you can enter numbers or alphabets. But if you use type is equal to email, that input should have @ symbol. Now let's see all these types. All right, so first I'll create HTML5 and here I'll type input types h2 input types examples. Okay, so here I'll create a form, right click, left preview. Okay, so the first input type we have seen as text, and you see now I'll explain one attribute called placeholder. So you can say first name. So placeholder attribute is something it will display before we enter the text. So you can see that this field is used to enter first name like Tom. Okay, if you don't type anything, if you remove your text, it will show the placeholder again. So a lot of companies earlier we used to use something like, okay, this input is for first name, so then we need to create first name as the label, and then we used to have the text field. But instead of maintaining two elements, in the previous example we have seen this one register, right? When you keep adding your labels, the HTML size will increase. So to reduce the size of your web page, they started using placeholders. So if you type placeholder and then use then give the value like first name. So you can see here, if I go to facebook.com, open externally, I'll click on this. So you can see right now they are using email as the placeholder. Right click and inspect. So they are using placeholder, not the label. So that's the reason we started, every developer started using placeholders instead of labels. Next, when we use type is equal to text, you can type either alphabets or numbers. Right. Next, create a break element, and then I'll use another attribute type equal to number. So here, or let's use the email first, email. So placeholder is for email. Yes, you can enter email, that means it should have @ symbol. Okay, let's see, I'll create a break, input type equal to submit. If I click on submit or place something, click on submit, it is asking for the @. So that is the purpose of type equal to email. Next we will see input type equal to number. As the example says numbers, so we use for zip code, right? Postal code, something like that. placeholder for zip code. So you can enter only numbers. If you try to enter alphabets, it will not work. You can see that this symbol is indicating that you can enter a number. Next, we will use input type equal to password. We have seen this example already, but I'll keep it here. Password, placeholder for password, which means you can enter numbers or alphabets, but it will be hidden. Input type equal to phone, type equal to phone. Placeholder. So placeholder, this is for phone number. So let's see what happens if I enter ABC or enter submit. Okay. Okay, now let's see the input type as date. Input type as date. So input type equal to date. So there is no placeholder required for the date because by default it gives some value here to select month, date, year. So that's where placeholder is not required. So whenever we want to select some date in a web page, we use input type as date. Next, input type as color. We can choose a color picker. Next, we have file and image. So files are generally when you want to upload your resume or something like that, or a document, you use type as file. So choose a file. It gives the location and you can select a page. You cannot select more than one, it will replace. So it says first web page, but if I choose the footer page, it will replace that. All right, so next I'll see input type equal to radio button, which we have seen it will give the checkbox. Then one more other option, input type as range. So whenever you want to select, give some values, it will whenever you want to highlight something, right, when you want to show the progress, how much percentage you have completed, that's where we can use the range, like the calculations, things like that. We will understand some examples in future. Then search. Yes, this is very important. Input type equal to search. But what is the difference? It looks like a same text, but the difference is when you type a placeholder search, the thing is when you type something, if you want to delete this, you need to keep pressing backspace. But whereas search, you type something and you can click on this X mark, you can delete it. Then we have seen submit, then is telephone and URL. So if I see one example on URL placeholder website URL. So if I type something like ABC, then submit, it says please enter a valid URL. So I'll say google.com. So it's still not valid because a URL should contain HTTP like this, www something like, then it is a valid. Then finally I'll explain telephone, tel, which is for phone number. So I cannot just press 23 and enter. So generally when you use telephone, we need to keep some pattern. So pattern is basically you are allowing only 10 digits, right? For example, if I go here and I say pattern, I need to have 0 to 9 of 10 digits. So what pattern I'm saying, I can have 0 to 9 numbers, I can use 0 to 9 numbers, but total I need 10 digits. So if I say 1 2 3 submit, it is saying pattern did not match. At least you need to enter 10 numbers, 10 10 10. Okay, now it is matching, the error is gone. If I remove this and submit, it says it did not match the required format. Okay, so that's more about input types. And now let's understand more about input attributes. So we have seen that attributes give some special value to the elements. We have already seen a couple of examples, but let's understand all these attributes. So for this, I'll create one more separate page, input attributes example. Attributes. All right, h1. All right, so we let's understand on the first input, type is one type of attributes which we have discussed few minutes back. And now let's understand one more attribute here, input type equal to text read only, which means read only is a new attribute which you can mention in the input field. So here if I type something, maybe I'll say placeholder equal to text or a name. Here I'll say placeholder, or I'll say value equal to your company name, right? I'll say google.com, but it is only read only. So if you see here, I can type something, but here it says value, but I cannot edit or delete it. So whenever an input field you don't want to modify, then you use read only. And then I'll use input type equal to text, value equal to something like California, and here I use another attribute called disabled. This is very important. Disabled is, you can see it is grayed out, you cannot even select that, right? So there is a difference, right? Both are not editable, just for read only, but whereas disable will apply some default styles which you cannot modify again. Okay, now let's understand one more thing, input size. Input type equal to text, or maybe I'll say number. I want to say placeholder for CVV, or you want to enter a pin number, right? So normally you can see if you apply a number or a text, it has its own width. But for a pin number, I only need 4 digits, so you can mention size as 4. size as 4. Okay, I need to change this text. Yeah, so change this type equal to text and you use size attribute as 4, which means you can enter only 4 digits. Okay, it's not about the size like in okay. Now let's understand another attribute called size. So by default, you can see when you mention type equal to text, it is giving me some width. By default, it is giving me some width, but I don't need that much width, right? For example, if I want to enter the state code, or you can say placeholder or pin number, right? I'll say size equal to 4. So size equal to 4 is basically copy of width. It's a width basically. You can enter as many letters as you want, but the width of the element will not increase. So it's the size as the attribute. Input. Next you can use max length. Max as length. So max length is basically you are limiting the characters in that page. So you can say placeholder equal to max 10 char. So let me try to enter my name. It's working. So you can see only 10 digits are working. You cannot enter more than 10 characters. You cannot enter more than 10 characters when you say max length. Next, we will see another attribute, minimum and maximum. So let's say I'll use this for number. Minimum is 5 and maximum is 100. So here if I try to enter 101 and let me place here input type equal to submit, I'll enter max as 105 and submit. Okay, so if you see here, minimum I have given 5 and maximum I have given 100. You cannot select more than 10. You cannot select more than 10 and less than 5. Next, we will understand another one option, multiple attribute. So here to understand multiple, I'll use file and give the attribute as multiple. So multiple is basically you can select more than one file. Okay, you have selected 3 files. Very simple. So let's understand another one. Input type equal to phone and phone number. I'll use a pattern saying that I need first 3 digits in one box, which is 0 to 9. You can use with the 3 digits. Then 0 to 9 I need 7 digits. So let me place a placeholder here, 423 as this, maybe 040 like that. Okay, 616. So phone number you can enter in this way, 616 iPhone 900 909 something. So whenever you want to mention some patterns, you can use this pattern as the attribute. Next, we can use same thing, input type equal to number and step as another attribute. I'll say example. So here normally if I enter 5 and click on this, you can see that you are increasing by 5 steps. Okay, by default it will increase by 1. If you want to mention your own value like 5, 10, anything, you can mention the steps. Alright, next we will see autocomplete, or you can see input height and width we can use for image. You can also use image as a input element, but here we are seeing input type with the image attribute. So here I'll say source. So you need to have an image in your system. So let me copy that one of the image, copy this and paste inside this. Okay, so now I can use input. Okay, colorful image, height as one more attribute, I'll say 200, width as 150. Okay, all right, so this is one more attribute inside the input. And finally we will see list attribute. Okay, input. So to understand list attribute, let's see this data list as the element. So which means when I say input type is equal to list, I need a name of the list. Okay, so what does that mean? You can use a data list as the drop down and give some name like iPhone, and now you can give some option *4, option *4, value I'll say iPhone 13 Pro, iPhone 13 mini, iPhone 13 Max Pro, and then iPhone 13 Pro. So now if you see here, I'll save this and I need to give this iPhone data list as the ID, and this ID I need to configure in input type as a list. So let's see what happens now if I type. Okay, there is a ID, iPhone value is there, iPhone ID. Okay, so let's copy this and open in a browser. Let's see. Right, so there is some error. Let's see that input type equal to list. Oh, sorry, list is the attribute, right? Sorry, my bad. List is the attribute and list name you mention as iPhone. All right, so this ID we need to configure in the list type and save this. Okay, now you can see there is a drop down is occurring. Maybe I'll open a browser. So here you can see the list is coming and you can choose, but what's the difference between a drop down on this? So when you enter, when you choose a list and when you type as like a pro, it will only show matching words, right? It is, and if you type mini, it will only show the selected strings. So these are more about the input attributes. And now let's understand another important concept, iframe. Iframe is very easy. So what is an iframe? Iframe is nothing but inserting a web page inside another web page. Okay, iframe is used to display a web page within a web page. So let's see one example here. So inside forms, I'll create a page called iframe.html, html5, h1. This is a page, first page. If you can see here, there is already a home.html. Inside home.html, maybe I'll write some styles as well, which says body should be displaying in gray color, background color as gray. So save this and see how it looks like. Yes, the body looks little gray and the text can be in white color. Okay, this is perfect. Now we have another page which is iframe. So what I want to do, I want to insert this home page inside this. So for that I can use iframe. So it is saying iframe source, you can give home.html. Okay, now open this page in a browser or live preview. So you can see this is a first page we can see, but inside home HTML, whatever the content is available, it is displaying. We can also increase the iframe size like 800 pixel. Okay, so this is how you can insert a iframe in a web page. Now let's understand semantic elements. So semantic elements are understandable by developer and browser, which means if I go back to my page, if I go back to the page, when I say something like header, everyone can understand header is used to place the content at the top. But if I say span doesn't explain what exactly mean, right? So we need to know that how span works. So semantic elements are those which is understandable by the browser and the developer. Okay, let's see this. Okay, so one of the semantic element is fig caption. So whenever you insert an image, you can give some caption to those images. Okay, so let's see that example. So just now few minutes back we have seen that, but right now since we created a new page, I'll insert here. So let me use fig caption. Inside figure, I'll use figure caption, but before that I need to use image and the source. Okay, let's see this. So here I'll apply height as 200 pixel. Now figure caption, I'll say figure 1. Okay, so you can see I have inserted a figure, and for this figure I'm applying some caption. You are not writing some headings, so this is a caption for a image. Next we will see HTML video. So this is something interesting, right? When you want to insert a video in a web page, you can use display video. Okay, now let's understand HTML5 video. So whenever you want to display a video in a page, we use video tag. So video tag can contain src, height and width attributes. So let's see one example. So to have a video, we need to load the videos in our system. So how do I get that? So there is a simple option that you can download sample videos. You can say sample audio and video files, and I prefer this example when you are practicing, fileexamples.com, and you go to the video elements and you can see these are the options you can use it, like the formats mp4, ogg, like that. So I prefer mp4. Select this one and you can see how much size you required. I see 1.5, the lightweight video, and click on this, click on download. You can see this. So what I'll do, I'll show this, copy this one, or you can copy this and come back to the code. Inside forms you can create a folder like the videos, and here you can paste it. Okay, the way its paste option is not valid, so what I'll do, I'll drag and drop. Go to my visual code. Okay, and let me change this to here. Okay, drag and drop to videos folder. All right, so the video is now available. You can change the video name here, sample video. All right, close this. So let's use the video here, video tag src. What is that? Videos, video slash videos, and then sample4. Open this. Okay, you click on this. Okay, so by default when you use a video it is not playing. So let me see if it is a plugin issue. Open this in a browser. Yes, it's not playing. The reason, because you did not mention the controls. So let's see here. Now when you mention controls attribute, you will see these options and click on play. Likewise, you can also download and use audio. Okay, so let's see that. Audio tag, basically when you want to play some songs or when you want to insert some audio clipping, you can use this audio. So I'll prefer the same example here. Go to this website, sample audio files, click on mp3, download this file, and you can click on download. I already downloaded that file. I'll drag and drop that. It's in my downloads. Okay, this is my mp3. Drag and drop to forms and change the name of the file, audio.mp3. So inside iframe I'll say audio, what is the file name, sample.mp3. Is that the file? Oh, it's inside. Okay, inside the forms. Okay, so let's keep the same controls here. Okay, let's see if it is playing. No, because audio.mp3, so the file name is audio.mp3, and now still it's not playing. Let's see in a browser. Okay, yes, okay, now it's playing. So basically this plugin is not supporting the audio when you work on the visual code. All right, so this is more about the HTML5 audio and video.